5 marshals get in. All of a sudden, boom, 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 shots are fired. The perp sticks his hand out there and just starts spraying the room. 3 guys should be dead. 1 or 2 guys return fire. One of the marshals dives into the bathroom. He should be dead. Guys were dropping to the ground. You could feel the bullets going past you. I'm the boss. I'm responsible for all this. El Chapo. I met him in the cell block. I went in there to meet him, pointing to me. He's like calling me El Jefe, like I'm the boss. And you're right there, not knowing what can happen. And we're getting these intel briefs, like someone's gonna try to break him out. I'm like, this is the biggest criminal of our lifetime. They were investigating me. I'm fighting the government. They want you to die. Who's Bobby Lediger that you came after me this hard? You manipulate the whole system. Because there's secrets in that agency that would open up Pandora's box into so much more of protecting people that shouldn't have been protected.
You wrote the president a letter, right?
Yeah.
Let's see what you had to say to President Donald J. Trump.
Yeah, so I'm from New York, so you hear that in my accent and the way I talk and everything. I grew up in a small town in New York City in Queens called Broad Channel, which is in the Rockaways, just an island. And I lived on the water my whole life. And I was just fascinated with the water and like, all right, I'm gonna go in the Navy. I knew I wasn't gonna go to college. And when I was 16, I had to have my parents sign off on it. You had to do the early enlistment, early enrollment. And because then when I was going to graduate, I was going to go right into the Navy. So that was, my dad served in the Army. He was in Vietnam. My grandfather served in the Army. He was in World War II. So, I just knew I was going in the military, but I wanted to go in the Navy. Of course, I get, steered in the wrong direction from the recruiter. And, I was going to go in and be a quartermaster. And that plots the paths for the ship to take. And I can't figure this stuff out. It's so complicated in that. And then I just wound up just being a boatswain's mate. I was in Pensacola, Florida. I wound up being like the commanding officer's driver, duty driver. I had no assignment job. It was silly. And the commanding officer, he liked me. And I met his wife. They enrolled me into college. I was going to Pensacola Junior College, taking some classes. And, me and him would start talking. I'm like, yeah, I want to, be a cop. I'm going to go become a federal agent. So he got me involved. The Navy didn't have MPs, military police, they had shore patrol or base security. So the Navy created this rate called Master at Arms. And I applied for that and I got it. And I was one of a few to get picked. And I went to Master at Arms School, which was in Fort McClellan, Alabama, under the Army. And it was a bunch of Navy sailors going to it. I went as an E3 and then I got promoted to E4. But upon that promotion, I got orders to go to Bahrain during Operation Desert Storm. So I went there and went right to base security, not knowing anything. I was standing guard outside a base in a bunker, and there was, the road, the cement blocks in the middle of the road, you'd have to do the checks around the vehicles. So I did that. I lasted a month or two, and the chief and the E6 who worked investigations took a liking into me, and I wanted to do more. I didn't want to work base security. And they picked me to work investigations. So then I went right into CID, and I learned from those 2 guys how to be doing investigations. We wore civilian clothes, and we worked under what it was called then, NIS, the Navy Investigative Service. Now it's NCIS. And then the different cases over there. And worked with a Marine gunny, a Marine sergeant, a Master at Arms chief, and a MA1, Master at Arms First Class, and learned from those guys. So there was a lot more hyping security, making sure nothing was going on. But we would always have interactions with all the different Navy ships coming into the pier there. Dozens all the time. and then so many different units coming and going through there. But you had what typical, military guys did. There was, taking souvenirs. So guys are taking things. I mean, some guys are just, it's exciting. It's an adrenaline rush. You're there in the war and guys are leaving with, live equipment, like you can't bring this on the plane. It's a grenade, or the tanks that were made in Russia. You're like, you don't know what this stuff is, So these poor guys are getting jammed up, just taking souvenirs. And so stuff like that. We had to go up to Kuwait one time, and it was right after an embassy got bombed, the airport bombing, whatever had happened, and go with NIS and the Marine gunny sergeant, and he was always on my ass all the time, and it was great guy. And then the Marine sergeant, he and I were real tight, and he was just like, Gunny is going to kick your ass, man. And start acting like you're in the military. And I'm like, I didn't, it was fun for me, I was 19, over there driving up, and I don't know, something happened. We stopped and we were staying out in tents or out in the desert. I'm like, why can't we go to the hotel? Like, what's going on here? Gunny's like, this is where you stay. And I'm like, this is terrible. Like, how come those guys in the Air Force have a nice tent over there with air conditioner and everything going on? Like, how are we not have that? He's like, you're in the military? I'm like, yeah, the Navy, man. I'm in the Navy, not the Marines. That, like patrol stuff, doing that up there.
Yeah.
Then I'd leave Bahrain and go to La Maddalena, Sardinia, Italy. Awesome. 11 square miles, a little island, Italian, it was great. It was a sub support unit there. And I went there as Master at Arms. I went there to work investigations, like CID, what it's called, Command Investigator. But when I get there, there's somebody else in there. But the chief there in La Maddalena knew my chief in Bahrain. So it was kind of worked out like, hey, we have a Master at Arms coming that we trained. He's going to be great for you and everything. So the chief in La Mad was so happy, and he and I became really good friends. And so I had to learn the area. So I had to work patrol for like a month or two to know what my whereabouts and that. And then from there, I was put right into investigations, working with NIS over there. There I worked some serious cases. You worked sex crimes, rape, sexual assault, drug cases, because you had dependents over there. There was a little housing area on the island, and so you had dependents over there. And some of the dependents, the wives, were shipping mescaline. Remember mescaline, like it's acid?
Yeah.
Like little tiny tarts, they look like, through the mail, through the U.S. postal system, coming over, so it looked like candy. And Matt, this is back in 91, 92. So there's no stuff to detect that through the mail. And we were getting mescaline, and then it went up to ecstasy. So that was one of the big cases I worked. So now I wear civilian clothes. I'm a civilian. They think I'm NIS, but I didn't even have my military ID. I had a dependent ID card. So the chief made this all happen. And my mom was the CO of the base, was the commanding officer. So they all thought I was just a civilian. So I was able to buy drugs from the dependent wives.
Oh, wow.
Because their husbands were on either a ship or working the base there. The wives were getting it shipped from home to themselves and then would disperse it to other civilians or even military people.
Oh, wow.
But we nailed it before it got bigger and bigger. Even to local Italian nationals, they were selling it to, whoever they were out in the bars, hanging out, partying with.
Wow.
So the Carabinieri got involved, NIS got involved. It was a pretty big one, taken right out of my hands, but all I did was buy a couple of hits of mescaline from this one dependent wife, and then it just blew up from there.
Ooh.
So you can't believe the things that happen. You think it's in the military, it's all different, it's all secured and safe, but some shady things go down.
Any other cases that stand out?
Over there, we had a enlisted personnel that worked at the commissary, the Navy Exchange, stealing like a big theft case.
Yeah.
That was the only big real, NIS would take a lot of the other stuff. We had a rape happen from, I forget if it was a civilian or not, but that was a big one. And that was in the other part of the island. So the locals were working at, and NIS got involved on that too. I did the basics.
So were you stationed there?
In La Madeleine, yeah, for 2 years.
Oh, 2 years.
Yeah, lived downtown. It was great.
Wow.
It was great over there. We had a good time.
Yeah, I bet the food was
It
amazing.
was awesome, yeah. It was. Girls are beautiful.
Yeah. Did you do 2 enlistments?
No, I did one enlistment, then I just extended.
Okay.
I did extensions. So I started out in Pensacola, then I went to Bahrain, then Italy. And then from Italy, that chief there in Italy, he wound up becoming in the Navy called a detailer, where you called him to get your next duty assignments. He was the man doing that. So I was up for orders. I'm like, I want to go back to the States. And I had been overseas, so I don't have to go on a ship now because that counted as sea duty. Never was on a ship. I did almost 7 years in the Navy, never went on a ship.
Wow.
Wore civilian clothes. I had long hair. I like work undercover. And so I called him like, hey, I want orders. I want to go to military police investigator school. I want to go to MPI school. It's one of the best schools out there. 2 other guys are up for orders as well. One was my roommate over there in Italy. So he was going to Rhode Island. So it was me and this other guy that the detailer gave us the same exact orders. But for all 3 of us, he sent us to MPI school in Fort McClellan, Alabama. And then from there, one guy went to Rhode Island, and me and my friend Dan, we wound up going to Little Creek, Virginia to be instructors now as shipboard security engagement, weapons and tactics, teaching shipboard security teams to engage if anybody attacks their ship. I've never even was on a ship. I have no idea. I don't even know the language, but this was great. We're there in Little Creek, Virginia, training these security teams using paintball guns on an emptied out 110-foot oiler, playing war games. It was unbelievable. It was great.
Wow.
And then going to the range the next week, teaching live gunfire with a 45 shotgun and an M14. And this is in 93, 94. So we're still using M14s back then when I was in, and 45s. I had a great time in the Navy, man. There was so many years ago. So, the cases I worked and the things I did, kind of drift away from me, but it's exciting. Desert Storm was exciting as hell. It was just unbelievable. Being there, I turned 21 when I was over there. It was a 15-minute war. Thank God. There was an air war. The craziest thing when I was over there is a scud hit the island of Bahrain. So, everything goes off, but it was such a fluke for it to actually hit because you had so many of those, the Patriot missiles would take them down. So one actually landed and nothing happened, thank goodness, but it shut miles and miles of things down. So that's when, here I am over there thinking it's no big deal. My dad was telling me more about the war from the news over there in the States than what I knew was going on. And then to live through that moment of a scud hitting, kicks you in the ass and brings back reality like, holy, this is real. Yeah, so the Marshal service, so like my whole path in life was I was just going to go in the military for a couple of years. I wound up doing 7. I get all the best schools I could get out of it, everything. And I'm in Virginia now looking to try to get a job. Like I want to get out. My dad's sending me all the announcements to sign up for the NYPD and corrections. And I'm like, no, I'm going to be a federal agent. I'm going to go work for DEA. I'm going to put in for all this stuff. Well, you get those teletypes that come across, like telling you, Boston police are hiring or NYPD's hiring or postal police are hiring. And then the marshals are hiring and they're doing this thing called Operation Shining Star. So I put in for it. Next thing you know, they're down in Virginia recruiting out of Norfolk. So you had to go in and take a test or whatever it was and give your resume, sign up for an application, and it's being viewed right there quickly. It's moving along quick. And I get called, knowing I'm going to get called. My background was being military police, an instructor now. I get part of this thing called Operation Shining Star. And they're like, hey, we want to offer you a position. Do you want to take it? I'm like, yeah, hell yeah. I'm going to go with whoever calls me first. Yeah. So I take it. And the funny thing is, I'm still in the Navy. I'm active duty. I'm not out yet. I have a year and a half left on my contract to get out. My lieutenant there in Virginia, he's like, no, I'm not letting you out. I'm like, yeah, but I'm getting out anyway, but I got to get out now because I got to go to the Marshal's Academy in like 6 months. It's like, no, disapproves it. He goes, you can put in a special request up to the CO. I'm like, all right. Hell with it. I call the detailer. My friend who was the chief in Italy, now he's a senior chief, he's a detailer. He laughed. He's like, Led, what are you doing? Like, what are you thinking that you can get out of the Navy? I'm like, I'm going to go to the Marshals. I'm going to get out. Get me out. I want out. And he's like, you can't do it. You got to get approval for all this stuff. He's like, look, call the old lady. The old lady being the commanding officer we had in La Maddalena. She's now an admiral, a 1-star admiral in DC, in the Pentagon. I'm like, okay. So I reach out to her. She's like, no, I want you to stay in the Navy. I never thought you should be a cop at all, being in federal law enforcement. It's too much. It's not good for you. Stay in and I'll get you to OCS school to be an officer. Come work for me as, my aide, and I'm going to Hawaii. I'm like, okay, no. I go, but after you leave Hawaii, I'm screwed. I'm going to have to go on a ship. I don't know anything about this. Now I'm an officer going on a ship, telling people what to do, and I don't even know it. So I'm like, no, I want to get out. I want to get out. You can sign off on this. So we go back and forth, a couple of times, and she finally gave in. And she's like, I'll authorize you to get out a year and a half early. And it gets down. My lieutenant now in Virginia is pissed. He's like, who do you think you are? For 2 weeks, I'm living through hell, But here it is. I get out. I get out on Saturday, and on Sunday, I'm in the Marshal service.
Wow.
Not a break of service at all. Rolled it right over into that. And went to the academy down in Glencoe, Georgia for like 5 or 6 months. And then I was assigned to Eastern New York, Brooklyn, where I did my whole career.
Wow.
So yeah, she got me out. She went on to become very powerful. She was a 3-star admiral, and I connected with her years later. She was at the Navy War College in DC as like the dean or whatever, like the commanding officer of the War College. Now she's a 3-star admiral. And I went there with a purpose, and it was 2009. And I was just awarded the Investigator of the Year Award from the Federal Law Enforcement Foundation out of New York. Huge, huge, huge thing. And it was off of a case of a perp named Thomas Qualls, who was a Ponzi schemer. Stole like $25 million. And one of the hard case. We were up on so many phones and trying to track him down. But we arrested him. He was in Montreal, hit a phone, got him. He was one of the hedge funds guys or whatever, and just embezzlements, stealing money, through bank accounts and stocks. And just a nasty person. He was a nasty person, especially what he did to his family. It was just a nasty case. Like his parents put their house up. They let him out on bond. Then he skipped bond, went on the run. The parents lost their house. The government went after them. The U.S. attorney was tough, worked that case hard. But me getting the Investigator of the Year Award was like a reward for that admiral to get me out of the Navy. Went and saw her, and they came out with a book of it. Every year they give you the journals. And I was written up in there with a big page, pictures with a bunch of people, and being such a serious case, and then presented it to her. Like, you did the right thing. I became successful.
Wow. Well, talk to me about, getting into the Marshals. Was it like a stress academy? What was the process like getting through it? And what was it like arriving there?
The physical fitness was not bad at all. It was nothing. The whole class was military guys. We had a couple of non-military civilians, but they worked for the agency already, and they were females. And then we just took them right in as part of us in there, and worked it right through there. But our class was funny. It was broken in two, and one of the instructors was hard, and he was from New York. Loved the New York guys. So he was on us all the time, constantly we were running every day, push-ups, sit-ups, all that stuff. A lot of firearms training, a lot of physical fitness training, hands-on tactical things, fights, because you're going to be a marshal. And, they always, they embellish the job to the students. They always do that, like make it more like what you would see on TV or in the movies, compared to what the marshals really do. Like the marshal service is a lot of dealing with working in the courthouse, doing a lot of taking prisoners to court and prisoner transportation. That's a lot of the job. And of course, there's the glorifying parts of it, working warrants or WITSEC, witness security, or judicial security. Like those are the specialty programs, that you get into. In the academy, they make it like everybody's working warrants, like you're all going to go out there, work the street, and arrest people. Mm-hmm. They build you up. The school part of it, taking lessons or that, it was hard and that, but we all cruised right through it. It wasn't bad. I think it's harder today. They get really into the academics more today. So I graduate, and then I get to Brooklyn, Eastern New York. And so Eastern New York is Brooklyn, Queens, Staten Island, Nassau County, and Suffolk County out in Long Island.
In the academy, did you get a wish list? And is this where you wanted to land?
I did, but I got it before I went to the academy when they offered you the job. Mm-hmm. They give you thing. So I went back I wanted to go to Brooklyn because I was from Queens, where I live. So it was better. It was better for me. There's also the Southern District in New York, which is in Manhattan, right over the Brooklyn Bridge. It's only 2 miles away. But it's totally different. It's a total different atmosphere. So Brooklyn, for me, was great. It was a great district.
Nice. So what was it like being a brand new marshal?
In the beginning, it's you have the hazing, so somewhat of it. It's a senior district. It's a senior office. Everybody that goes to Brooklyn stays in Brooklyn. They're from there. They want to have their families and stay and grow up there. I came in, I was young. I came there with, I think, 5 guys from my academy class went to Brooklyn as well, but none of them are from New York. So they were only going to go and do 3 years or a couple of years and transfer out and get back home, which was because this was a new program from the Marshal Service, so they had to fill the spots of what district needed people. Brooklyn's a busy district. There was a lot going on there. When you arrive, you're assigned just to district operations. You're dealing with prisoners going to court, federal prisoners going to court. You have to work the cell block, and that for guys or girls who get arrested or going up to their court hearing appearance, or new arrests coming in and you have to process them. And then transportation, where you take them, the prisoners back to either MDC or MCC, BOP, or to local holding areas, maybe to Rikers Island, So you do that in the beginning, and it's long hours. I mean, you're starting at 6 in the morning and you go until 8 o'clock at night. You have shifts and everything, but you know what? In the government, you become an 1811 and you're entitled to this great program called LEAP, where you get to work your overtime if you want or you don't want. You're working, your 2 hours mandatory. So you have to put in 10 hours every day. And then if you go over that, it doesn't mean anything. It's free time. You're working. So you're stuck there.
That's killer. No overtime.
Yeah, no overtime.
Man. So how long do you have to do that until you get to put in for maybe an assignment that you want to do?
Well, in Brooklyn, you can get to do a lot of different things and go and maybe work witness security or judicial security or some high-profile trials maybe in another district. I didn't want to do any of that. I wasn't into that stuff at all. I didn't like doing operations or dealing with taking prisoners to court. You have to wear a suit. So I wanted to work warrants, So you would do your rotations in there, and hopefully the supervisor in there or the senior guys that worked there took a liking to you and liked how you worked and trained you. You learned everything on the job. You learn stuff in the academy, but it's there in the job and how it works in Brooklyn. So I worked warrants. I wanted to do warrants. I would do my rotations a month, 3 months at a time, and then eventually get picked to be like, hey, you're going to go there. And I think the reason a lot of us got picked to go into warrants, there's other guys also that really liked it. It didn't happen until after September 11th, when it changed everything, because now you had the Patriot Act come out. The Marshal Service created this huge regional fugitive task force, it was New York, New Jersey, and then it took on Eastern District, Southern District, merged everybody together. So you needed people. But you still had to work your district case warrants. You worked with the NYPD, New York State Police, all other feds. It's huge, huge up there. And I fell right into that. I mean, I was right there, but I mainly worked Brooklyn warrants, and then you would jump on with different local cops, task force, TFOs, task force officers. Mm-hmm. And then it just grew from there. It just became what I wanted to do. I was good at it. I worked with some great, great people. And I was a deputy U.S. Marshal, criminal investigator, working my cases, whatever the supervisors assigned to us.
What was your experience like working with multiple different agencies on a case?
Good and bad. When I worked in New York, in the city, in Brooklyn, we had all these NYPD detectives with us, greatest guys in the world, the best cops ever. We had sergeants, lieutenant. So they were into it so much working but you're in the 5 boroughs. You're in Brooklyn, Queens. You're working. You're nonstop. The cases that are coming in are so big. You're dealing with, you're working homicides, kidnapping, rape, drug cases, shootings, all kinds of shootings going on. When a cop is shot or a cop's killed, we worked every one of those cases. So there's no fighting. There's no issues. Everybody works it together. And when we brought cases to the table, it's a Marshal's task force. We're bringing in great cases. So all these cops wanted to be on it. And the resources you have with everybody is great. You just can't break that, but you have to have the right people on it. And we did. We were great in the city. We had great supervisors and chiefs that let the guys and girls work their cases. Do it. Go get the bad guy. One bad issue was out in Long Island, and it was a Fed case. I was a deputy, and the U.S. attorney out there, the chief, and it was with when they created a special task force with the FBI. It was MS-13 task force out in Long Island. And I think I was one of the first marshals to get an MS-13 case. And it was from an FBI agent, great guy. And the Marshal Service and the FBI are butting heads all the time. Like, the FBI just doesn't turn their cases over. But these guys were working so much. They had so many investigations going. They were up on so many wires. They couldn't go out and make arrests. So they turned it over to me. And the chief of the U.S. Attorney's office, she's like, I want you to go get this guy. We're up on his phone. The phone guys and the marshals worked in Long Island out there. But the supervisor of the task force out there at the time was a marshal, and he was partnered up with a Suffolk County cop, detective, great guy. The perp we're going after that's wanted now by the FBI and the U.S. Attorney's Office is wanted by Suffolk County homicide for the homicide that the FBI is taking over now. So they're butting heads. So this detective from Suffolk County can't go against his own department, but you're on the Marshal's task force. The case was turned over to me. We're going out on it. It's in Suffolk County. You have to go. So there's all this bickering back and forth. And I'm like, it's the whole attitude. It's like, what don't you understand? It's the feds, then the locals, then the municipality, then the county. That's how it goes, Like the feds are taking this over. It's a federal case now. Your homicide detectives have no power. They can't get, I have the warrant. You have no warrant. So we were butting heads on that for a little bit. Got into some bad arguments over that. And it was the chief of the U.S. Attorney's Office who wrote down, she's like, no, you will go out and arrest this guy. Like, that's it. Like, people forget, and I get it. You have your loyalties with your departments and all that, but you got to remember what the cause is. This was over the weekend, and Monday morning we were going out. We're up on the phone, went and got them. I called the FBI agents. Within 15 minutes, they were there. They're like, don't touch anything. We're coming in there. We're going to do the search. We're going to take everything. They got dozens of phones, laptops, all this stuff. And the guy was a major player with the MS-13 wanted for a homicide. So it's a great case. It pissed off one of the TFOs and the homicide, but I don't, that part of it was the silly politics and that made it bad. But it was funny because that supervisor of the task force, he and I eventually, come blow up later on. But he was a pay grade ahead of me. So I can't say anything to him. And plus, him and I never got along anyway. And I think the reason I had a lot of problems with some of the marshals or the TFOs there is, and I'm jumping ahead here, is the group in Long Island. I was the only military guy. And I remember one of my partners there, he was a Nassau County sheriff sergeant, big guy, like my bodyguard, And he's like, you intimidate them. They're afraid of you. You did more than they ever did in their whole careers. Coming from the military, doing stuff, then coming from Brooklyn, working in Long Island and bringing cases. He's like, the cases you did in Brooklyn, blow them out of the water. And I get that, but I wasn't there, to show off. Like, come on, I worked in Brooklyn. Of course you're going to be face to face with so many crazy things. And really, it's on TV every day. Law and Order, Blue Bloods, it's like, that's what you're seeing.
Yeah.
So you did it.
Can you walk us through some of those cases you worked in Brooklyn?
Oh, I had a great career in Brooklyn. I remember one, it's so funny, just to come back in memory now, and then dealing with, with the title, your show. It's like, I had one case when I was a deputy, and I had worked with, was it ICE at the time or INS before they merged and became ICE? It was INS and a girl, and then an NIS agent, which was funny because now here I'm working with NCIS as a marshal. And it was out of Virginia, and it was big. It was an international case and involved Russian mafia and Navy guys marrying Russian girls who were hookers and coming up. I'm like, what a scandal. I'm like, oh my God. And it was big. It was in the media and that. So I get the case. My supervisor at the time is a woman, is a lady. And me and her wound up being partners in Brooklyn, and she gets it in. A lead comes in from Virginia, and she's like, yeah, I'm going to give the case to you. You do it, work it up. And it was 6 targets we had, 6 females. Each girl was prettier than the next. So I was like, oh, this is going to be easy. All these guys are going to jump on this case. So now I need people to come out because we have to hit all these locations simultaneously. Like, this is going to happen. And then they're doing hits in Virginia, Cleveland, the Carolinas, California. So everybody wants to do it at the same time. So there was agents coming up because they're like, this needs to happen. So I reach out, and this is at the time where we have a show going on in New York City with A&E called Manhunters. So the chief there was this guy, Lenny DePaul. So he was out, always getting cases, like, put it out there, let's promote the Marshal Service. So I reach out to him and I tell him what I got. He's like, send me all, we'll all put it together. I'm like, look, it's happening in 2 days. We're doing the hits. This is it. It's huge. We had CNN out with us. We had some local media out with us. So I send it out to all the guys that I'm working with, and a couple of girls are on the task force. And the girls are like, oh, come on with this, And all the guys are like, yeah, we'll definitely go. We're sending out, what we're going after. It was successful. You know, we went out, but some of these guys were coming back. They're like, oh, man, there wasn't one girl, but there was 3 in the house, or there was a couple of guys in there, and there was a Russian target that they were looking for that we arrested. Like you just happened to fall upon this, you know, like that's how it is. You know, you start working, it's just timing, like something happens. But it was just a scandal, and it was all ran up by a couple of Navy guys out of Ohio, Cleveland, and like farming it out to their friends to do this. And then they were getting money, kickbacks, and now they become independents. Like they're marrying these Russian girls to get them into the country who are just hookers back here in the States, but they have access to everything on a military base. So it was huge.
So they were doing it because they were getting paid.
Yeah.
And how long would they have?
And they weren't even getting paid big money. I think these Navy guys were getting 10 grand, 20 grand, but they all got locked up. I mean, they were going to do Fed time. They weren't going into the, you know, getting a court martial.
Wow. Any other cases stand out to you?
I had a great career in Brooklyn, man. I did a lot of stuff. And of course, you know, I always take, you know, as much credit as I can get, you know, working El Chapo. You know, that was out of Eastern New York. It actually came out of Long Island. And the DEA guys out of Long Island that did that case. And they, you know, for the Marshal Service, we're the custodians of all federal warrants, you know, so everything has to come down to us. But the guys I worked with in DEA out in Long Island, they would turn over so many cases to us, and one was El Chapo. But they maintained a lot of it. It was given to us as well. I mean, I never went to Mexico or anything that. I know the guys that went and who worked it and who did what. But it's funny, you know, you get the talking back and forth of what people did things and that. And I look at people like in my own agency at headquarters that they all take this credit that they worked El Chapo. And I'm like, I don't remember seeing you anywhere when that guy came to Brooklyn and we were dealing with the transportation and the trial and finally getting them out of there, you know, or that of any of these guys that went overseas and worked El Chapo. Like, I remember looking at all the paperwork, you know, it was out of New York. It wasn't out of headquarters. It wasn't out of anywhere else. It was out of Brooklyn. So, yeah, dealing with that was exciting. And the Marshals have an office over there in Mexico. So you don't know who to trust over there at all, especially when you're living over there compared to if you're just going over for a couple of days and doing an operation. But yeah, it's some shady stuff that goes on in Mexico.
Yeah. Wow.
And then it'd be part of it. Like, and before they brought him over, and it'd be part of all these meetings and sit downs and knowing what's going on. You know, every one of us that were part of the trial or the transportation before and during it, every one of us had to get revetted. Everybody had a top secret clearance. The people who needed to know were in that room. So to sit down with, you know, some of those agents and U.S. attorneys and see what's going on and to view the evidence, you know, the hard photos or videos to see the stuff that went on there, insane. And it's nothing compared to when you watch these stupid horror movies today. You're seeing, that's real stuff. You're seeing real issues go down. You know, you saw the photo, you know, even whatever gets leaked on the media, you know, with the people hanging from the bridge or, you know, chopped up. It's crazy.
Yeah.
It's absolutely crazy.
How deep was your involvement did you ever get to have a conversation with him?
I met him, yeah. In the cell block, yeah.
Really?
Met him right there, yeah.
Wow.
And it was funny the day I went in there to meet him, and he played the game that he doesn't speak English at all, which is all right. But it was funny. It was one of my guys, the marshals, one of the deputies, and he was doing the translating. And to Chop, he's like telling Chop, he's pointing to me. He's like calling me El Jefe, like I'm the boss. I'm like, this is the biggest criminal of our lifetime. You know, and you're right there, not knowing what can happen. And, you know, and we're getting these intel briefs like someone's going to try to break him out or be careful, you know, he can get you. Look, you meet him and he's smaller than me. You know, he's like nothing at all. And you're like, how did this all happen?
Wow. Doing
that. I mean, we know you disrupted everything in Mexico with El Chapo. But yes, you're right. there's somebody standing right behind him to take over.
Yeah.
You know, and it's funny, we were just talking earlier, when that show Narcos came out, and I'll just bring that in there. Like, I remember my wife sitting there watching it and hearing the names, in Narcos, and her hearing me on the phone and working and hearing me say there was names, people that, we had warrants for that we were working, that were all tied into it.
It's an interesting game, man, to play.
Yeah. You see it and it's something else, like, oh my God, I was part of that.
Yeah.
And it freaks you out. It's like, to jump off that, to bring up other cases that I worked or did or anything, like being involved in a shooting, it changes you, or it changes you in different stages of your life, for me. So like the one shooting I was involved in, it was out in Long Island. It was no big deal. The only big deal about that was it was out in Long Island. So out there, it's weird politics, with the county cops and the state police. And then, the marshal, everybody getting involved with things. Even I could see people like twisting the story. I'm like, this guy, just shot at us. Like, what are we missing here? And then and then right away, it's on the news, like it's happening, because in New York, all the media has the police scanners, so they're listening live, and then helicopters are going up. That was my case, and his name Peter Smith was the perp, and he was released in error. In error, he was wanted in North Carolina, and somewhere out, maybe like Minnesota or something weird, and I think for bank robbery, and then like a probation violation, however it happened. And it was an FBI case. And next thing you know, the guy winds up in New York, like out of nowhere. And in the beginning, we think he's in Staten Island. Then we track him down and he's out in Long Island, staying with his sister. And out in Long Island where he was, it's all suburban area and everything. So it's all houses. And he was in a basement apartment with his sister. And we were up on a phone. So we tracked him down to the phone, and then moved in. Simplest thing, you look at the guy, he's older, he's out of shape, he's overweight, knock on the door, we surround the house. The sister comes, she's like, oh my God. And like just yelling instantly. Somebody's like, I seen him run. Somebody ran in, so we pull her out of the house. Have her outside so other guys, sit on her. We, move in a little bit more. And now we're able to get her out. Now we're in the house, in the apartment of the house. And small little room. And then there was a side door, and then there was a back door coming in through a kitchen. And then he ran down a hall. The perp, Peter Smith, ran down a hall. The guy's outside to talk to the girl, like, what is he doing? Does he have a gun? Or getting information. And so it comes back over the radio, like, hey, he's armed. He's got a gun. So now he hides himself into a bathroom, but he's opening the door little by little, trying to talk to us, pointing the gun out. So we have this guy set up, in this like little area of the kitchen, then the hallway, and then you come around, it's like the living room. So we're both, the two teams are focused in on the door, but nobody has a real good shot, but you can see him in the mirror trying to talk him out, whatever it is like that. Now we get the phone call, we get the call over the radio. They're like, hey, Suffolk County ESU team is here. Their SWAT team is here. They're like, back out. We're like, back out? We're in it. We're already in. We're 2 feet away from the guy. You can't back out, like, what's going on here? But that's the politics of Long Island. So we're like, no, we're in it. We're staying. I'm not backing out. It's a Fed case. Like, stop, secure the perimeter, in case it goes bad. So now you're in there, you're waiting in this little basement apartment. And the guy, he opens the door and he goes to come out. So we're like, holy shit. So we're like, drop the gun. And he shoots around. So it was my partner, Tony, was right there and shot him. And then it was 2 shots, hit him once, and then hit him in the hand to shoot the gun, and then the bullet went right through and hit the perp, and then he hit him again and took him down. But you're in there, and you're like, I still got the ring. You still get the ringing in your ears. Like, so my hearing is shot from all that. One case we worked. So Andre Nevison was wanted for double homicide out of New York and a federal New York State parole warrant. He had killed his girlfriend and his sister, murdered them, like sick. So this case gets adopted by a marshal out of southern New York. Administratively, I don't know where it all went, but regardless, it was a case wound up being a case out of Brooklyn in eastern New York. So it's my responsibility. I have to answer to this case being out there. Even though there's deputies assigned to it, there's NYPD guys assigned to it, parole guys, there's several people on this case. It was Labor Day weekend, and Andre Nevison gets stopped on a traffic violation in Bridgeport, Connecticut. He's been on the run for 15 years. People are traveling around the world looking for him. Oh, he's living in Trinidad, Tobago, or he's in Haiti, or he's in the Bahamas, all these things. I'm like, what? So, and he's from Brooklyn. And in the beginning, he's a big guy, big, monstrous man, like beats people up, bouncer. So he gets pulled over, and Bridgeport police run him, and he uses a fake name, has fake ID, something, whatever. They lock him up for whatever the traffic violation is, impound the car. Because to come back to his girlfriend, they bring him in, and they fingerprint him, and it comes back to the fake name he's using with the date of birth and all that. But the FBI number that it comes back to is to Andre Nevison. By the time it runs through the databases, Connecticut PD lets the guy out. But he's been picked up before, and his name he was using was like John Scott. Gives the date of birth and everything. And he's like, it's not me. If he was questioned before about he's like, I'm not Andre Nevison. It's wrong, whatever. They let him go. This has happened a few times.
Wow.
So I'm working now. It's the day after Labor Day. Nobody's really in the office, it's me. And I have a guy that works for me who is an Army intel specialist who's assigned through HIDER to work with the feds, whatever the program is through the New York State National Guard program. This guy, Alex. So we pull up the printout and start going through things. And he's telling me, Alex, an Army intel specialist, and he's just working the desk, administrative stuff. And he's like, hey, I know a lieutenant, Alex, knows a lieutenant in Bridgeport PD. I'm like, okay. I'm going to call out to him and say, that we think it's Nevison, send me a picture. We go back and forth. So he makes the contact. And it's happening now. It's going, and sends a photo back. The face similarities are there, from the photos we have to him, but he's like 200 pounds less than what he was. Wow. Like, it looks like skeletons. So Alex, like, it's definitely him. Definitely him. No, I'm like, I don't know. We're doing this while my chief and other people are planning for El Chapo trial going on. This is huge what's going on in Eastern New York right now. Huge stuff. So I get it. I'm like, I go, forget it, Alex. I'll call up to Connecticut. So the marshal, the acting marshal of Connecticut used to be a deputy in Brooklyn. Him and I are friends. So I tell him what I got going on. And he's like, get the hell out of here. This is great. No way. He goes, that case is garbage. We're all laughing about these things. He's like, all right. I go, so I bypass the chain of command and go right to the marshal and tell him. Then I call down to a deputy who's working in Connecticut that I'm trying to kidnap and work in Brooklyn. I want this kid to work for me. He's from New York. So I tell the marshal, I'm going to call Adam and give him this case. This is the home. He goes, are you going to make his career? I'm like, yeah, I'm going to make his career. So I call Adam, I tell him what I got. I'm sending him emails. He's like, you got to tell the supervisor. I go, dude, I already told the marshal. BT knows about this. You're set. He's like, oh my God, this is amazing. He goes, it's like 1 o'clock. He goes, everybody went home already for the day. I'm like, call people in. He goes, well, I got a canine that can help me to go out there. I'm like, get to the house and check things out. While that's going on, Alex is still talking to the PD and they're going, hey, we released the car to this girl. Here's the address. So we have it all. It's happening. And now I got to call the task force because there's different guys assigned to the case. And I told the investigator, the marshal that works for me, who has the case, tell him, they're like, we're going to Connecticut. I'm like, go. Everybody go. It's only an hour away from us. So now I go in there and I see my chief. And I tell my chief, I'm like, all right, we're going to arrest Andre Nevison. They're like, whatever, led. Like, I'm telling you. I said, we're going to arrest Andre Nevison. Get ready to call headquarters. They're like, what happened? I tell them, and it's funny part of their story. It's sarcastic, but there's like 5 other supervisors sitting there. And only one is like, this is great. Like, so happy for me. My chief is happy. So go back out there, and Alex, guy from the Army, he's like, it's nonstop. The phones, everybody's calling one and stuff now. And now I'm just sending out emails to certain people because I don't want to screw it up. So I get the chief from the task force involved. I got the marshal from Connecticut involved and my chief. So I go, listen, this is a joint operation. This is what happened. Here's the photo. We're all doing this together. No bullshit. They're like, Led, this is all yours. You run the show. You're the lead. You're making this happen. We're not saying nothing. You do it. I'm like, great. So now I'm putting people in place. So the supervisor from Connecticut gets involved, and his feelings are hurt because I didn't go to him and I went to a deputy underneath him. He's like, you need to communicate with me. I'm like, yeah, bro, it's not happening. I'm talking to the marshal in Connecticut. Now I'm going to Adam. I'm like, I'm sorry that you're an hour away and you're going to miss out on this great moment. But too bad. I'm giving it to Adam. It's Adam's case, and that's it. So he's sending me back photos, He's like, he's sitting on the porch right there. He's like, I'm only here with 2 other guys. He goes, and Adam, he's a great guy. He was in the Army. And he's like, look, I'm afraid to go up there right now. I want more people. No problem, Adam. You can wait all day. I don't care. You can have 1,000 people. He goes, it's definitely him. He goes, there's a kid in the house. I'm like, definitely wait for more people. Call your locals, do whatever you have to do, have an ambulance on standby in case something happens. He's like, no problem. He goes, people are moving in now. He goes, give me a couple of minutes. So now we're sitting waiting. You're sitting there, you're like, I can't get there. And 15 minutes later, it's so cool, to get the call or hear these words. And he calls me up. He's like, 1 under. You're like, holy shit. This case was so stepped on. It was so destroyed by so many other people that were such great investigators. And here's me and Alex just taking the time to do a little due diligence and do a little searching and reviewing and working it. And you got one of the biggest cases for the Marshal Service, for New York City and everything. And we got him. And he came out, he looked like garbage. He had a daughter that was, I think, 11 years old and was in Bridgeport, Connecticut the whole time.
Wow.
The whole time. It's an embarrassing thing to talk about. Like, wow, we really screwed this up. But thank goodness we came so far and did this. All with that, what is it, biometrics or whatever, when you can, with fingerprints and that. Yeah. And I don't know all that, but to do that and then to have a clear mind and work it and go. And there was so much more that happened into that deal there. While I make that arrest with all these guys, while we do all that, and El Chapo, there's so much going on with me there during that time frame. And just see how proud my chief was of that, which is great. It's great. I'm like, look what we just did, and I'm under all this pressure and stress all the time, more so with other stuff. And I'm like, we just arrested a top 15 for the Marshal Service.
How long had he been on the run?
Oh, 15 years.
Wow.
Yeah. And what was great about it too, like for me and my district in Eastern New York, because of that case and El Chapo, our district received, like, from the Marshal Service, which is a real big thing for that year, the District of the Year award, for pulling so many things together like that,
Nice.
which is huge. Like for our leadership, our managers, that's a huge thing to get,
Yeah.
you know?
Wow. There's another case you wanted to talk about. Talk to us about Oswald.
Like Oswald Lewis, it wasn't my case. I was a supervisor. I had the deputies that work the case, it's their case, but you entrust them and give them the power to go work it and do it, but that Oswald Lewis, man, it originally started out, it was a DEA turnover out of Virginia drug case. And like I told you, I need someone to get me to the door. And all these great cases I talk about because the guys got me to the door. So it was these two guys, and I can't say that they're still working today. So, I mean, one guy is Ryan and the other guy is Sandy. And they're the best out there, best investigators. And they worked this case to the bones, man. And I get involved only because it's a high profile case. There's questions are coming up. They're like, hey, we think this guy is going to be armed. The intel we're getting, where we have an ex-girlfriend that's giving us information. Okay. He carries a gun. Okay. We're up on this phone. Okay. Like, this is it. Working the phone. Got some good intel that he's somewhere in Queens. August 2014. So the guy, one of the other marshals that works the phone, is up on the phone and puts it down at this address in Queens. They're like, we're going out. And it's happening later in the day. And I'm like, okay, they're like, hey, we're going to go to the 115, to the precinct, to local cops, tell them we're coming out. It's going to be undercovers working out there, stay off the set, let us do what we got to do. And what's good is we have a good relationship with the detective bureau, the detective squad of the 115, and the lieutenant in there is a great guy. So Sandy reaches out to him, tells him that he's like, we're coming out with you guys. We're interested. We want to work it, which is great. We need locals out there. So we have some marshals, some cops from the task force with us, which you need. So we set up and they're like, look, it's not 100% that he's in there. We can't nail it down. It's a big house. We know there's illegal apartments in there and our guy can't pinpoint it. So the guys working the case, they want to sit on it a little bit and like, let's see what happens. So we're like, all right. So it's getting later now. And I'm like, listen, I'm going to call it. We're done. We've been out for a long time. People got to get up in the morning, go to work, hit it again tomorrow or something. Sandy, he's a good guy. He's like, no, we got it. We got it in the house now. We know. And I'm like, son of a bitch, I knew he was going to do this. So I'm like, all right, let's move. Let's start making some action here. Put guys out there, set it up. So they start. We talked to the lieutenant from the 115. He starts putting guys on the outside perimeter, in different yards and everything. Now we're in Queens. Houses on top of houses out there. So we go to the front of the house and make contact with people that are living there. And actually, it supposedly is the homeowner. And the guy, we show him the picture. He's like, yeah, he's in the back. It's in the apartment back there. No problem. So now we're on the radio and we're talking to the guys that are in the back. They're like, yeah, the lights are on, the lights are off. The TV's on, the TV's off. So guys make entry into the second part of the house. Well, there's a wall up because there's another apartment there. So the way it's constructed is weird. So we hit the wrong area. Now the guy hears us, Oswald Lewis, the perp. He hears us walking around out there. But there's still people outside perimeter like, hey, this back room, the TV's on, the TV's off, the lights are on, the lights are off. Somebody's in the house. Someone's in the house. So we get out of the one spot, get to that one door, knock on the door, police. And the perp, Oswald Lewis, he's like, what do you want? Starts yelling back at him. We're like, it's him, And the guy hitting the phone is trying to, he's like, it's in there. The phone's in there that we want, that we're on top of. So we're like, all right. He's like, no, get out of here. You're breaking into my house. All the weird shit. So I'm like, take the door. Let's go. Let's make this happen. We take the door and there's exactly 8 of us going to make entry into this house, into the back room of a house, into an apartment. I want to say 5 marshals get in. As they get in, everybody's on top of each other. I'm not in. I'm at the door. Marshal in front of me, and then we had one female marshal out there with me, next to me. Her and I are in the door frame. All of a sudden, shots are fired, coming out of another door. The perp sticks his hand out there and just starts spraying the room. 3 guys should be dead automatically, right? Just the way it's set up. 1 or 2 guys return fire, right away. One guy dives, one of the marshals dives into the bathroom, into another door. Like he's right there, like he should be dead. That was the worst experience I was ever involved with that. With something like that. That whole shooting incident. It is just, everything was, you get these people come back and critique it, or these, all these so-called experts that have never been involved in a shooting, but do all this training and tell you, and you even know, you're like, God, this is so bad after the fact, how it went. And you're there, and guys return fire, guys would drop it to the ground, and I'm the boss. I'm it, man. I'm responsible for all this. You stand there, and you could feel. You think in your mind, you could feel the bullets going past you. You're so into it, and but guys were able to. We had to retreat. We had to back out. We had nothing to protect us. There was one shield, and it wasn't even there. Like, I don't know what. Like, if someone dropped it, and we backed out. And I still stayed by the door frame, I remember, with my, I don't even know what I was pointing at. My gun was out, like guys were coming out. And somebody fell over. We had to go up like 3 steps, little platform there. Somebody fell over the railing and landed into somebody else. It's so scary. It's scariest experience ever you go through. Any kind of shooting whatsoever is scary. And all of a sudden you hear shots fired again out a window, hitting like one of those man-made tin sheds, you get from Walmart or something. Yeah, bing, 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 and you hear the cops out there, the detectives. They're like, holy shit, and shots fired. The perimeter secured, and one of the guys, he's like, I shot him, I hit him, I definitely hit him. And you hear commotion, yelling and screaming going on. We're out. We have no protection whatsoever. You're in the street. You're right there. Now I have people coming out, neighbors coming out, people, residents, civilians coming out, videotaping all this. Like, cell phones are up, everything's going. Guys are behind cars, but just trying to get cover. And I remember it was Sandy, another marshal, and me Sandy had the shield now. How we got it, I have no idea. But this other guy, Marshal, loud voice, and now Oswald Lewis comes forward. He's wearing a bulletproof vest. He has a holster on the bulletproof vest, and he's holding a gun, and he's opening the door. And we're like, drop the gun, drop. This one Marshal was so loud, he was able to take control of the talking. So I'm letting him talk. He's like, drop the gun. Lewis throws the gun down, and it goes under a car. And he's coming, we're like, put your hands up. As we see that, his hand is just arm is shattered, like got shot. And he's coming down a set of stairs, and then we take him to the ground. As that happens, all you hear is sirens coming out everywhere. You don't even hear it while this is happening, but you're hearing it. And what had happened is, minutes before that, the lieutenant from the 115, we all have NYPD radios with us. Thank God, they're the best, because when you just turn the dial to channel 1, and it's central. And when you hear central, shot, cop shooting like 1013, holy shit. The NYPD is the biggest army in the world. The cops that showed up there it was like lifesavers coming out of they're just, the sky was lit up with blue and red everywhere. And then, high beams coming at you, and they're on you. And as that happened as well, you have EMTs, the ambulances that are on, they're out on a patrol. They're just driving around waiting. They have the scanners going too. Like they were there. And right when we didn't have a guy cuffed, we're cuffing a shot up hand. And there's an EMT guy. And one guy was the boss, maybe a lieutenant, whatever their titles are, and medics like there on us to get to the perp to help. And looking at us, and we're all covered in blood, thinking, did we get shot? Because it's from him bleeding. You back up. Now here comes the media, the news is there. It's like within minutes, this is happening. And now you're looking around, and now I'm like, everybody okay? Anybody get shot? No, nothing. All right, check the rest of the house, because this guy shot a 45 and a 9mm at us. And we carried 40 cals. So whatever was shot back, and then you're like, who shot? Like what's going on? Now I'm like, is everybody okay? Like, we all okay? Are the cops okay? Is everybody okay? So now I'm the boss, and there's a lieutenant there that's the boss. And so now me and him got to talk, like, okay, what happened? Because it's going down, like everybody's coming. And, and it's sure as shit. Here come, the police commissioner's coming, the marshal's coming, all these bosses are coming. I got to call, I need assistance, So I call one of the other supervisors I worked in warrants with. I call him. He's like, oh my God. He goes, I knew something was going to happen. He's like, I'm on my way. And he's coming from Jersey. And he's like, I'll make all the calls. Don't you call anybody. Take care of the guys. Get to the hospital. Do what you got to do. So guys are showing up now. And the guys I worked with were great. Other supervisors I worked with in warrants were great. Like they knew, like, what to do. You know how to handle it. And guys would come, they're like, hey, I'll take care of it. Turn your guns over. And they had other guns to give them a replacement right there. Like, you can't even think of this when you're in it, And they were like, here, giving it to the NYPD. Now ATF is coming, like they're going to do a crime scene. It's real. And then I remember my chief called me. He's like, is everybody okay? Did anybody get shot? I'm like, no, just the bad guy. He's like, are you okay? I'm like, yeah, it's fucked up, scary, all this stuff. He's like, all right, can you leave? What's going on? I'm like, I can't leave now. Like, it's shut down. NYPD's here, stealing everything, that's it. A bunch of my guys had to go to the hospital. Nobody wants to go to the hospital, that? They're like, I'm here with you. Sorry.
No, you're fine. You're fine.
So what triggers that is, you finally leave. I get home. It's like 4 a.m. And, I have a mother and daughter house. It's me and my wife, and my mother-in-law lives with us. And my mother-in-law's up 4 a.m, old Italian lady. And it's odd. She always hated me in the morning getting up and leaving for work. But now it's like she sent something, like I pull up. I'm like, you're not home? You weren't home? And I come in, I put the lights on, and I'm in the backyard now. She comes out. She's like, oh my, what happened? And I'm like, her name is Nella, So I'm like, Nella, it's okay. I said, we were just shooting. Oh my God. So she gets louder. As she gets louder, Roseanne, my wife, hears it. She comes running downstairs. And she's like, what happened? What happened to you? You're like, both, you can't control that. You don't know what's going through their heads. I'm like, I'm okay, relax, it's all right. She's like, you're bleeding, you have blood all over. I'm like, I know, it's the bad guy's blood. I'm okay. We were in a shooting. It's on the news. It's okay. Stop. Then we have a dog. The dog comes right out to jump on me. Like, even the dog knows something's wrong. So I'm sitting there stripping down, like, all right, you got it. I got to take a shower. So I'm like, call my mom and dad now, because it's going to be on the news. It's going to be on 5 o'clock. It's, it's first thing. She's like, you're on right now. There you are, and there it is. The channel's got it on TV. And she's like, what did you do? I'm like, I didn't do anything. I'm like, I didn't do it. And So she's like, well, what? I'm like, Virginia, we've been through this. Just calm down. And you wonder what's going through her head. You know, a civilian looking at the guy she loves, her husband, standing there, covered with blood, perped blood. You know, wasn't in the shooting. It's on the news now. All this reality is just kicking you in the ass. So I'm like, I'm all right. I jump in, I go take a shower, and now she's like, your phone's blowing up. She's like, this is crazy. Like, so I look through, there's a dozen missed calls. And the only one I call is my chief back, and it's Brian. And he's like, bro, you okay? I'm like, yeah, I'm all right. He's like, what do we got? And I'm like, this is how it happened. I go, he shot it. I'm like, that's it. I go, I have too many witnesses. He's like, all right, no problem. He goes, everybody's okay. Yeah. He goes, you got rid of, everybody's home, right? Everybody went to the hospital, home. I'm like, look, bro, I think so. I'm like, these guys are all, superstars. They're heroes. They're working it. And I'm like, I'll track everybody down. I'll get us accountability. Give me a minute, But yes, I was the last to leave. People were in the hospital. People went home. Nobody went to the hospital just for the trauma. So then I'm up now, wait a little bit because now you have traffic. And I finally, get myself back into Brooklyn, because I got to brief, the marshal, the chief, the assistant chief, what happened. Because now you have headquarters calling down. Internal affairs is on our ass now. So I give him the whole rundown. Here's all the guys. This is what happened. These 2 or 3 guys turned their guns over to NYPD. This is, this one's working that. They're like, okay, all good. Good shoots. Way to go. It was after that, it's where I got it was the girl I was next to, Marshal, who worked with us. And she wanted to come out and work the street, and it was after the fact we find out that she was pregnant.
Wow.
Yeah. So that weighs on you, and especially when it messed me up years later. One of the girls who works for me, who's like a daughter, and I just love her to death. And she was in the shooting and I wasn't there. And when I watched the video of that specific shooting she was in, she was unbelievable. Her actions, and all you hear is her voice. And when you look at the camera came from the ceiling and everybody was opposite, distorted a little bit, and you just hear her screaming, just with that, the girl's voice, and Marshall's got shot in that one and a cop got shot in that one, and they should be dead. And here I'm the boss. All that weighs on you because these guys and girls are out on the street and you give them so much, but it can be gone like that, and nobody gets it, and you're out there and it happens at any different time, so it weighs you, man. It gets you. And I have a young lady who works for me by herself in Long Island on the task force. There's no other marshals with her specifically. And she comes to me and tells me that for over a year she's being bullied, picked on, teased, all this stuff. And she didn't want to tell me because I'd be like, just come on, suck it up. Let's keep going. Stop. You're in the squad. You're in the warrant squad. It happens. Like it's a cop. She's an Army veteran. She was an MP in the Army. She had 10, 12 years on the job already. Everybody knew her. She had a great reputation. She worked. And then it was until she told me about guys grabbing her, making sexual comments toward her. One guy grabbing her, like groping her, feeling her up, doing this stuff to her property on her desk. one guy peed in her animal cracker jug of cookies she had on her desk that everybody could eat. Like, peed in it. And I know these guys. Now I have this woman, come to me with all this and throws it on me. Me being me, man, that's how I was raised, you know. I'm like, all right, I pull her out of the warrant squad. I confront the supervisor of the group of task force guys out there, who's my counterpart, who's the same guy I've had issues with for the career, because he wouldn't help me during the MS-13 arrest. But he's ignoring her. And this is another Marshal. She's telling you that these guys are bothering her for time now. And when she gives me the details about what's happened, I confront these guys. We're going to get into fights. We're arguing. And it happens like that, you know. It's like just starts spinning out of control. And I pull her out of the task force, and I call my chief and tell him what happened. He's like, you just like, what? Like, and he's like, well, you can't take her out of the task force. She didn't do anything wrong. I'm like, but we got to protect her. He's like, he goes, I'm going to tell the chief of the task force. He goes, we got to report this to internal affairs and to headquarters and everybody else. I'm like, all right, you know, like, whatever. And I'm like, he's like, well, what did you do? I'm like, well, I already argued with all of them. We've already gotten into fights and arguments and blaming other people and doing all. I'm like, it doesn't matter. The girl confides in me with everything. And she's in a relationship. She's gay. And it's her girlfriend that tells us everything that went on. Like, and they wrote it down. They had details about stuff that was going on. And it was just insane. Like, in the beginning, it's like, no big deal. But then when it starts to develop more and more, and you hear what these guys were saying to her or asking her, and the acts they were doing towards her, it's like you tried to hurt her. You know, for what? Because you didn't like her? All of a sudden you didn't like her personality? You had no problem with her when she was processing your prisoners and doing all the work. But you didn't like her because she wasn't like a sexy looking girl. You know, you didn't like her because she was telling you what to do, and you didn't like that coming from her. So who are you guys? You know, you work on the Marshal's task force. She's a Marshal. She's the team leader. And what happens is, my chief's involved. They turn it over to internal affairs. So this is a bad thing that's going down. Sexual harassment, sexual assault, bullying, degrading, discrimination, all the just stuff you don't want to be part of. One of the bosses from my agency, from headquarters, he gets involved. And he's not well liked personality-wise by people. And he turns around and he pulls it from internal affairs because he has the power to do that.
Yeah.
No internal investigation. What we're going to do, headquarters and the task force, because it fell under the task force, which was created after 9/11, which is funded congressionally, turns around and be like, and it's ran by a specific division in the Marshal Service called IOD, Investigative Operations Division. He goes, we're going to assign an investigator to investigate this instead of internal affairs getting involved. Of course, it involves TFOs. Like, it doesn't matter. You're still a cop, and you were deputized to work on the Marshal's task force. So this independent investigator comes down to investigate and say, we're going to investigate office culture. What's going on in the office? No criminal acts or whatever. So they do that. They investigate a bunch of nonsense people, and they're all like, nothing's happening. It's all good here. So this independent investigator comes back and says, no, this girl is taking it out of content. It wasn't meant the way she thinks it was meant. Really? Somebody peeing in your food, is it meant the way it's supposed to be meant? You know, somebody grabbing your breast and your ass, is it meant to be what it meant? Or making you kiss him hello every day, is it meant that? And there's other women now who came forward and says, yeah, he makes me kiss him hello every day. Jesus. Well, you're like, this is so stupid. And no, we know these guys, and they pick on Dawn, the girl Dawn. So he goes, well, the problem too is Bobby is led. He's a supervisor and he should have been more active out there. You have a supervisor out there. It's part of the task force. We're all over the place. So my chief isn't accepting that, and my marshal isn't accepting that. So they talk to the number 2 guy, and now the acting director of the Marshal Service. They're like, you got to be kidding us. And they go back and forth here and there. So this acting director of the Marshal Service goes, I'm not aware of all these other complaints from this girl. There is no sexual misconduct going on there at all, or no harassment or bullying. But this thing about urinating in the food, we're going to investigate that. Are we just going to investigate that? So he assigns internal affairs just to investigate that. This is a year later from when the initial thing started. People have been pulled from spots, moved around. During that year, the task force supervisor made an accusation that I broke into his office. Just that. What did we do? There so happens to be cameras everywhere. And when you reviewed it all, nobody ever broke into his office. But Internal Affairs investigated me. During that same time, one of the TFOs went to a New York Mets baseball game, because he knew I was going to be there with a bunch of other people who witnessed this all. And he went there to confront me, to fight me, because I went against him and went against the blue wall. So all this comes out years later, and now Internal Affairs gets involved and they're going to investigate. So they sit down with the one guy who this girl Dawn made the original complaint against. And they pretty much open the floor to him. And they say, hey, is there anything you want to tell us? And he's like, yeah, I want to tell you. Bobby Lediger is a racist. He says the N-word hundreds of thousands of times a day. And we've spoken to him about it and told him to stop because it makes us feel uncomfortable. He covered up a gun getting stolen. He owns a gym with a felon. He has domestics with his wife. Shit. Making stuff up. Out of blue. Which is great. So you're like, what? Next thing you know, Internal Affairs is like, thank you. They take whatever he has to say, and he goes, not only can I make that statement, but so can my task force partner make the same statement. Because I went against them to protect the girl. And they're like, okay, so they get him. He makes the statements. He's like, not only can I do it, but one of the other marshals who was in attack can make a statement. So they get 3 to 5 people to say things. Then they go start snooping around all over the place. They wound up talking to those 3 to 4, 5 people who have their own little story made up. They talked to 16 other people that work with me. They're like, no, nothing. None of that's true. They're like, we don't care. We're going after him. They bring me in. They're like, you're a racist. The best is Internal Affairs that's coming after me. All the investigators in the beginning are black. Everybody coming to talk to me is a black person. Calling me a racist. I'm like, this is great. But the best is they talk some people I work with who are black. And they're like, hey, we're glad you're investigating racism, but you got the wrong guy. We'll tell you who the racists are around here. They're like, no, we want to know about Bobby Lediger. So that goes on. More things go on top of each other. I mean, it's so out there. And it's stuff you can't believe. Like, it's a movie of what happened to me for doing my job. These guys had another person get involved and make a phone call to the Marshal Service. Has a deciding official. It's a chief who sits down because they went to fire me in 2017 because Internal Affairs, they're like, he lied during his interview. He's a liar. We don't believe him or these other witnesses who have nothing to do with it, but we believe the guys from the task force. So they proposed to fire me. During that, somebody else calls this deciding official who's a chief from headquarters who's designated to review this and be like a judge to interview me. And so when we go to sit down with her, I have to go get a lawyer. I have to pay for all this because we have no union. You know, we have this silly, FLIOA. I'm still working. I'm working full time. Until I get proposed removal, they take your creds, your gun, your car, everything, but you still have to go to work. But you have nothing. But I'm in, and I'm still the supervisor. I'm still performing, working warrants. I just can't go out on the street, but I can give assignments. So we go and talk to the society official. She's like, I just received a phone call that you steal evidence from some civilian lady who got my number. How did she get your number? Like, how did this all happen? So my lawyer's like, I want an investigation into that. Like, okay. So now I sit down and I present myself to this society official, this chief. Give so much evidence. I have letters of support, everything. Boom, boom. She finds me innocent. She's like, this is all unsubstantiated. This is all garbage. But then she's like, I want the task force investigated because we give them information. Like, this is so dirty. Now I have an investigation going on because of this one lady who said I stole evidence. So I get cleared of one thing. Now I have another thing going on. I'm sorry. I misspoke too. I also, remember I told you, they said I owned a gym with a felon. So this felon was one of my informants who they knew. And he was a bodybuilder, big guy, always at the gym. And I would see him at the gym. They say I own a gym with them. My own agency does a financial investigation against me. Comes up with nothing. I don't own no gym. Look at the side. I'm 5'6", 160 pounds. I'm not in the gym. That informant was used by some of those task force officers. We brought him into the office and they sat down and talked to him. So they knew he was my informant, but they knew he was bad. That informant was giving me information about a public corruption case in Long Island. He was in jail, calling me. Phone calls are recorded. I'm like, yeah, I was talking to him. All those phone calls that recorded were going right to the FBI because the FBI and the U.S. attorneys had a public corruption case going on against Nassau County officials. I go to the U.S. attorney's office, tell him he's calling me and has information. They're like, we know. We've heard your conversations. And way to go for coming to us, doing your job. So I have the FBI and U.S. attorney's office knowing about this. I tell my chief and my marshal. They're like, this is great. I have my own internal affairs coming back and saying, I mishandle an informant, that I'm using an informant. I don't have them registered. I'm like, the government, the U.S. attorney's office and the FBI are using them. It's all documented right there. I don't have to register him. I'm not paying him. We don't believe you. You're mishandling him. We believe that your wife and your informant were in a relationship. What? Where do you come up with this? How do you come up with that story? We believe that you were dating your informant's cousin. We believe that the informant's living at your house.
They're just randomly.
This is coming from other people saying that to them. No, he's lying to you. This is the informant that you're dealing with. Just lies.
Wow.
Coming up. You're like, where do you come up with these questions? And how do you come against one of your own, another Marshal? Where's the integrity from internal affairs, investigators? Like, what? Investigate the accusations. If they're coming at you as lies, how do you not confront that? How do you not arrest those people who just lied to you? You just say to everybody, if you lie to a federal agent, you'll go to jail for 5 years. They're lying to you. It's fact. I have all these other people that are telling you it's fact. So now I have another investigation going on after I was proposed firing about the informant and stealing evidence and giving it to people. So that's 2017, goes up until April 2019 before they ever interview me, internal affairs. And during that time, they're digging into me. And I'm working.
But never even interviewed you for
nothing.
2 years?
2 years.
Wow.
But I've been under an IA investigation for 2 years. The lead investigator, that guy went TDY to some other position, but kept my case open. So it's all fact. It's all true. It's there. It's in the documents. 2 years. Now I have to go there. I have to go now for a 2-day interview with internal affairs. I got to pay for my lawyers. Do all this. We go down there. Horrible. They degrade the hell out of you. They treat you like garbage. They humiliate you. They make you, embarrass you. It's all shame. It's horrible. One of your own department people. And they knew it all stemmed from lies. So I sit there. They were looking at my cell phone, my work cell phone, the computer, text messages. Just go like, wow, you'd think I was doing human trafficking or something the way you came after me, but I was still working. And I'm still working when I go to internal affairs. And I'm sitting down talking to them, and the questions they ask you from what other people said to them or they thought of or they made up, everything from misusing your government car. They're like, you steal drugs from the evidence locker. You take drugs, you sell drugs. You steal money from the evidence locker. You're associating with felons. You steal social security numbers and sell them. You're a bouncer at a bar. You filed for bankruptcy. One of your guys got into an incident with a local cop in New Jersey and you tried to squash it. You assigned jobs to people that shouldn't have been doing them. Some other stuff in there anyway, but I'm still a racist. Still ask him if I'm married, if my wife was with the informant again. Same thing. All the stuff that was asked and answered and interviewed and cleared, everything. Not 2 days of interviews there. Go back to Brooklyn to work and work. Work like nothing. You would think I would as a cop, as a real cop, a real investigator, a real boss. If your guy or if your girl was just asked questions by internal affairs about stealing evidence, wouldn't you have your evidence audited and me taken off it? You were asked that you're taking drugs and selling drugs. Wouldn't you go get me drug tested? Wouldn't you want to clear or have evidence for or against your guy? You're me, the perp. I'm a perp now. Wouldn't you want all that? They did nothing. I arrested a top 15, Andre Nevison, while they were investigating me.
Wow. So all this was going on.
Same thing.
Wow.
Oswald Lewis. It all started in August 2014. One of the biggest shootings in my district. I was there doing that. El Chapo in my district. I was there doing that.
And all this was going on.
All this was going on. I had internal affairs on my ass.
Wow.
All this is going on. You're coming at me as if I'm a criminal, hardcore criminal. I mean, I did more shit than Chapo. And you didn't do anything to either prove it or clear my name. And as the Marshal Service, wouldn't you want to clear your name? If I was such a good or bad employee, I get outstanding evaluations. I'm the supervisor of the warrant squad, the most dangerous section for Marshal Service. And now, mind you, I win that. Now I have more cases going on against me. I don't get any money back. I don't get any, I'm sorry, nothing. I lose out on if there was an opportunity for promotion, all this stuff. My record is marked. And what is it? It's a smear campaign against me because I defended this girl and you come up with all this garbage. It's like a fishing expedition. They destroyed me. While this is all going on, all that negative stuff is happening to me and I'm still working. All the guys and girls want to work for me, with me. I have support from people in the task force, from other agencies, people that are writing letters. I received 200-something letters from people that I'm a good guy, explaining everything, volunteering information. I get awards, outstanding evaluations, meet all my qualifications, get recommended for promotion while I'm being investigated. And I'm being considered and so-called groomed for a political appointment, a presidential appointment to be the Marshal of Eastern New York. How can you do all this?
How does that happen? How?
People were backing me. There was people from another police foundation called the Federal Enforcement of Homeland Security Foundation, who we worked with, making a recommendation that I put in to become the Marshal. And I presented my paperwork to when Trump was the first administration.
Wow, man.
You get to listen. The stuff I talk about, you can't make up. The stuff I talk about is all documented. It's all there. I now come, COVID comes, 2020, the world shut down. It's the end of the world. Zombies are coming. April 20th, 2020, 4 o'clock on a Monday afternoon. I'm in Florida. I had to move to Florida because I couldn't protect my wife when all this was going on. I feared for my wife because of the people, what was happening. My mother-in-law would tell my wife that there was unmarked cop cars outside our house. My neighbors would tell us that there was cops sitting outside the house. We were getting screws in the tires of our cars. My wife's car. These guys came onto my property in my driveway and put screws in the sidewalls of my wife's car. Why would you do that?
Wow.
Because you didn't want, you were going to get kicked off the task force because you were harassing a girl. So you went to hurt my wife, who let you in their house. These guys were at my house for barbecues, parties, get-togethers. This is what you do? I'm working in Brooklyn. How do you protect your wife? What do you do? I hear all these people talk. If somebody goes after my family, I'll kill them. What am I going to do? Go after the Suffolk County Sheriff's Department? Suffolk County Probation Department?
They would have loved for you to do that.
Yeah.
See, we told you. We told you this was a bad guy. We told you. And then all this stuff, that, oh, it's probably true. Everything.
I turn around and we sell our house. We had a beautiful house in Long Island. Beautiful. Big piece of property. My mother-in-law lived with us. We had to put my mother-in-law in another family's friend's house. Me and my wife were staying at a condo my parents had. My wife went to work part-time with the company she works with, and now she's in Florida working. I was still working in Brooklyn, going through everything, and was like, I got to retire. I got to get out of here. And they're like, don't retire. You're still young. You still can do it. Yeah, I can. I'm real good, unless I can maybe transfer me to Florida. My problem was I called them out. I told the number 2 guy at the agency that he was a scumbag. Face to face, called him out. He was a liar, a weasel, everything you can think of. And he was just a regular deputy U.S. Marshal, just like me. Came on, he was in New Hampshire, but then he moved up in the ranks. Self-promotion. Went to headquarters, read some manuals, burnt some people, moved up. April 20th, 2020, 4 o'clock. I'm in Florida. I'm using up my leave. During COVID, I didn't run the scam like everybody else was running. Work a week, off 2 weeks, using up my leave. I had put my papers in and it was approved to retire on June 30th, 2020. Phone call comes, my chief. Led, you're fired. You're totally fired. You lose everything. You're fired right now. What do? 70 days before retirement. During COVID, the worst is that it was during COVID, the whole world was shut down. I had over 30 years in the government. My military time I bought back to put on for my pension. Lost it all. No more medical, no coverage, no pension coming, no money coming in. Oof. Sat there, crushing. What kept me going the whole time, all that shit from August 2014 to 2020, April, was my wife. From the moment she found out about the whole case and everything that was going on, I'm proud of you for protecting Dawn.
What happened with her?
Dawn stayed on. She filed an EEO, and they settled with her because they knew they were wrong. And she retired. She's out now. We still talk, her and I. She feels horrible. She's like, she blames herself for what happened to me. I don't blame her. I don't blame her at all. I blame my agency. I was so misguided and disillusioned by the belief that they were good people. There's great people in the Marshal Service to today. Guys I love, girls I love in that job. But the people at headquarters, internal affairs, general counsel, they suck. They're slobs. They lie. They cherry pick your words. They destroy you. They want you to kill yourself. They want you to die. But what really screwed them was a guy like me. I fought them back every day. I have great lawyers. My lawyers are too smart because you're dealing with idiots in the government. I today still have an active appeal with the Merit System Protection Board because even the judge on my case is stupid. She's in over her head. It's too complex. And she gets bullied by the government because it's a government-controlled court. I am so lucky, grateful, thankful to all my friends, family, other people I meet that listen to my story and are like, I can't believe it. I got this organization, the National Police Defense Foundation, backing me, one of the biggest police foundations in the world. They created a legal defense fund to help me, Bobby Lediger, out of nowhere, to go up against the government. The president and founder of this, Joe Occhipinti, he went through the same shit I went through. He was targeted. And he was just pardoned by Trump in the first administration.
Wow.
Because they went after him and he told the truth. So he's like, I got you back. Guy's amazing. Absolutely amazing. All the people there are amazing. I go through all this and I get it. Even my wife said it to me, like, they want you to die. Why? And who am I? Who's Bobby Lediger that you came after me this hard? You manipulate the whole system. Because there's secrets in that agency or in this investigation that would open up Pandora's box into so much more of protecting people that shouldn't have been protected because of the way they work and how they manipulate things. So here I am today, man. I talk. I tell my story. I know me talking and telling you this stuff is getting out there because people have reached out to me. And me, I've saved some people's lives, telling people not to give up, to keep fighting. Is it hard? Holy shit, yeah. It's the hardest thing in the world. It's the hardest thing in the world when somebody characterizes you and try to destroy you off of lies. And they do. They do. It screws you up. Financially, I'm destroyed financially for the rest of my life. Physically, mentally, emotionally, hell yeah. But you know what? I got my confidence back. I feel courageous. I'm not lying. I'm telling the truth. And it's a simple story. You know, it's David versus Goliath, you know, going up against Big Brother and then sticking with it. I had people come and help me that you could never even imagine. It was 2 guys from the FBI who got screwed over by the FBI, telling me how to go about things, how to stay with it. As much as me helping them too, looking for guidance on what I did to stay in the fight. It was even there was 2 other guys that worked for the Marshals that actually gave me advice and helped me along, tell me what to do. Then everybody else, nobody turned their back on me. I got more people supporting me than I ever had, still today. And even though I have my case still pending and I'm looking to, I don't even need to clear my name. My name's been cleared. I did nothing wrong. And everybody knows it. And everybody that talks to me or about me or says anything, they know it too. I'm fighting the government. I'm fighting the Marshal Service for my retirement, for money, of course, back pay. It took a lot of money from me, attorney fees, but
Defamation.
all that stuff. Yeah, but you can't sue the government on that. Government employee through the government employee. It's terrible. Yeah. It should be allowed. You know what? Prove it that I'm all this stuff. And in the end, I won, dude. I won it all. I did retire. I did it without those idiots even knowing how to do it. And I have my pension and I have medical benefits. But I did lose, because even when you win, you lose. I lost a lot of money, a hell of a lot of money. I lost great memories. I missed out on great opportunities. I put my wife through hell, my family through hell. Um, I don't know, maybe I'm that guy that I shouldn't speak as much as I speak, or I shouldn't tell the truth. Truth hurts, you know? Screw it. You can't hurt people. And it all stemmed up as a kid. I have a mom and dad, a little sister. As a little kid, my dad told me, if anybody messes with your sister, you better beat the shit out of them. That's it. I don't consider the girl Dawn my little sister, but she's still a girl, and you can't hit a girl. So screw you, man. I'm going to war. And I'll do anything I have to do to win. And I won. And it was the day after, it was the day leaving one of the hearings. And we left the one hearing and it was virtual. We were in my lawyer's office in Manhattan. And my dad, we were walking out and I think we were on the elevator or something. And he's like, I'm so proud of you. What are you proud of? I just lost everything.
For fighting.
Just sucks, man. It sucks what your own coworkers can do to you.
How far are you along in the case?
Ron, I think this is our last appeal for it. And then that'll be it. I was actually ready to give up, and be like, I'm done. But my lawyers wouldn't let me. Not that I had to pay them, but they're like, what else do you have to lose? Take it all the way. I think I could, if I lose this appeal, I could go to federal court, but you have to start from scratch. I can't do it anymore. My wife says no. I don't know.
Well, you wrote the president a letter, right?
Yeah.
Let's see here. You mind if I read it?
Yeah, read it, man. I mean, that's a cover letter and then a letter direct to him. So yeah, read them. You can, however you want to put it out there.
Let's see what you had to say to President Donald J. Trump. Dear Mr. President, I am Robert Ledegar, an American with over 30 years of military and federal government service. I'm also the proud recipient through the National Police Defensive Foundation of a legal defense fund in support of an ongoing appeal with the Merit System Protection Board for termination of my employment with the U.S. Marshal Service. I'm not perfect, and no way am I an angel, but for sure am a man of honor, integrity, and loyalty. For my country, I did my duty and job. I defended and supported a subordinate who was targeted by coworkers in sexual harassment conduct, physical and verbal abuse, and a victim of bullying. But for telling the truth, confronting the bad guys, and calling out leadership and unaccountable bureaucrats, I was then targeted and destroyed by the agency I devoted my life to. The betrayal of few was true crimes against my character, focused on destroying my career, finances, health, and mental well-being. But they failed. The lies they told of me have been revealed. The support of so many, my family and friends, I am still in the fight. I beg for your help. Respectfully, Robert Ledegar.
Simple, right?
Yeah, straight and to the point. Yeah, well, hopefully we could get people to push this out and get it in front of them, because man, with all the support you have, I don't see why this couldn't get pushed out there big time. This is a wild story, man. Unfortunately, I feel like other people have gone through this, but the only difference between them and you is choosing to fight. I think most people don't choose to fight because of just how everything's structured. I mean, you're in the thick of it, exactly how all this works. Yeah. And the government structures themselves to win. But, keep fighting, man.
They got all the time and the money on their side.
Exactly.
A guy like me, who's part of the government, who is federal law enforcement, like I said, we have no union, man. You have to pay out of pocket. And so many people can't handle it. So many people, if I had kids, I couldn't do it.
Yeah.
Just can't do it.
ever since leaving the Marshal service, what's it been like trying to reintegrate yourself back into society? I mean, after what was it, about 7 years in the Navy, another 25 plus years or so in the Marshals, but then also for you to be dealing with this, and you're still dealing with it. The case is ongoing. How do you handle it? You know, how does it affect you mentally?
You know, in the beginning, it ate me up. Every day it ate me up, you know, and there's still times in a day I'll think about it, but not as bad as it used to be, you know, and I always throw the word out there, demons. The demons get in your head, you know, and the demons are you overthinking it, you know, of what these bad people said about me, you know, so I feel shame, embarrassment, disappointment. You feel like a loser, you know, total loser. You're like, wow, you're like, this is what my own agency came up and said all these negative things about me and called me out to try to destroy me, you know, to kill me. And it's hard, man. It's hard. I go out, you know, I'll go out for walks by myself, 5-7 miles, you know. I hate running. I hate doing that stuff, you know. But I'll walk and I'll listen to music, you know, and I'm a nut. I listen to 80s new wave stuff, man. I got to listen to like the Smiths and Depeche Mode, all these depressing songs, and AC/DC and, you know, the Beastie Boys. But it helps me, man. I got to feel the pain. I feel it, you know, like in my mind, and it's sick to be like that. Like, you know, people tell me that I have some sort of PTSD. I've been through so much trauma of what happened. And I just want to be happy. I want to have those happy times with my wife, you know, and have fun. We do things. We have a lot of fun together, and we do a lot of stuff. We try to keep busy. She's done fighting. She lets me and likes me when I do these podcasts, and I'm talking about it in more of a better way, you know. And I think I feel better talking, like storytelling, telling this stuff and getting it out there and helping others, you know, and I'm more open with Roseanne when I do that stuff, talking about it. And she hears me, she corrects me a lot, you know, she saw it so clearly of what they were doing to me. But what I tell her, and it's hard because I become very emotional on some talking points, and I never thought I would get like that, especially when I talk with her and like she hears the crackling in my voice, you know, and you don't feel like a tough guy anymore because the emotions got you, you know, of reality. And she hears it. It's like what my chief said about me. My chief, this guy, Brian, who's my chief, and another guy, Craig, who were there from day one helping me with everything. And they were like, you know, Led, you're a legend. You know, your legacy. It's crushing to hear that, to be praised like that from those guys, you know, that see it so clearly. It hurts your feelings in a good way that you're looked upon like that. And it's hard to accept, you know, because those guys successfully retired, you know, and I'll never retire. I'll never have that. And my wife says that you deserve to retire. Those guys say it. They're like, Led, you deserve your credentials. You deserve that. You know, you did it. And it's hard to accept. It really is hard to accept. There was a guy I was in the Navy with, Navy SEAL, superhero, called me one day, and I don't know what the conversation was about, but it went into it like this. He was like, dude, I don't have one thing in my house that says I was in the Marshals. Not one. This guy was a chief in the Marshals, worked on phones, and a Navy SEAL, toughest guy in the world. And we were in the academy together. He was in DC and I was in New York, but we got together. I mean, we're still friends today. So that means something. And he goes, I don't have one thing in the house that says I was in the Marshals. He goes, I'm so disappointed in what it was. He goes, I'm more proud of being in the Navy. And so am I. I went into a room. My wife let me put some of the pictures up on one wall, you know, And I took down every picture or award or plaque I got. I took it down. I went into the cabinet and I took out the mugs or the pints glass we had with the emblems on there. And I boxed them up. And they're still boxed up today, and those plaques and pictures are wrapped up in paper bags under my bed. And my mother-in-law just watched me do it. And she walked into Roseanne and she's like, did something happen? She's like, I don't know, but leave them alone. And then it was like a week later, and Roseanne was like, what the hell? And then she knew I was talking to this guy, Keith, who said it. And it's just like, it like lifted something out of me, you know? But to be reassured from Keith that I didn't need that anymore, that it's all bullshit, saved my life. I think it's so hard. I say it so openly now, people who saved my life. This right here, man, you saved my life. You gave me this opportunity to talk, and you asked me questions, and you cared. It doesn't happen anymore. People don't know what you go through.
If you were to ask her, Roseanne, what do you think defines me as a person? What do you think she would say to you?
Roseanne defines me as a habitual line crosser. And I say it every time I speak at an engagement because it's so true. But she's like, Bobby's a good guy. He might be bad, but he's a good guy. He's one of the bad boys, you know, growing up, like getting into trouble. But I'm a good guy. And she goes, Bobby will give you the shirt off his back. He'll kill himself trying to help you. And that's my Bobby. That's what he does. She gets mad because I do too much, maybe. You know, like, and she's so right. And the priority today is just Roseanne. I will protect Roseanne. And that's it. Because of what happened to me. And it's like those people, those bad people that I fought with in the Marshal Service, they killed a piece of me. They take a piece of you. And they're glad they did. But it hurt other innocent people doing that. And I feel bad about that. But my priority is Roseanne. And I'm glad she says that to me, because there's so much more to define me than the courageous act I did of protecting Dawn. And look what it got me. I talked to a therapist for a while, this lady, she was great. Then they put me on to a psychiatrist, a doctor. That guy actually Googled my name for the next interview to see who I was. And he was like, hey man, it happens every day to somebody. What the government does, they target people. He goes, it happened to me. He goes, I got characterized. And we kept talking and talking. And he prescribed me drugs, medication to sleep better and for anxiety and stress. I didn't take one of them. I didn't take one. And it's not to, like, look, I understand some people want to take it, you know, and lose that. I didn't, man. I wanted to feel it. Because you know what? Greatest quote in the world. Everybody's got a plan till they get punched in the mouth. Mike Tyson, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Like, you got to feel it. And I wasn't I have a couple of beers, you know, go out, but I couldn't just sit there and drink it away, you know, and think it's going to go, man. I got it. You got to survive. You got to move forward, man. I got to protect and provide for Roseanne and my family and whoever else. You know, there's the things that have to get done, and I couldn't.
Well, I'm happy to hear that you have your wife by your side, and it sounds like you guys been together for a long, long time, so she's been by your side through all the thick and thin. Yeah. So I think it's really important to have support like that. I don't know her, but I would guess she's just happy to have her husband by her side. She doesn't really give a shit about none of the U.S. Marshal shit. She's just happy that she has her husband next to her.
Yeah, she's great that way, and it's the way you just said it like that. That's how she would say it. She didn't give a shit about the Marshalls, and or those people, and she makes sure I bite my lip once before I say what has to get said. But
Awesome, Bob. Thanks, man. I appreciate it. Thanks for being here again, brother.
yeah, that was great. I'm glad we got that part in, man.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Yeah.